Alright guys, today I'm going to go over some stuff I found out about leveling a twin I-beam Ranger and shocks and camber and all that good stuff. So let's take a look. First of all, as far as the install of the spacers and making the spacers, what I did is right here are the washers I stacked. The stack itself is just about dead on 2 inches thick, which another member on Ranger Station, I don't remember the name, has a calculation for the ratios of spring travel to actual wheel travel. So I gained a little over 2 inches, probably 2 1/4 inches of actual lift. Definitely paint the washers when you're done, it'll help prevent rust. Right now they're just JB welded together, although I'm going to be pulling these out and actually welding them together. Not really necessary, but you know, better safe than sorry. As far as the whole spacer and the stud extender, the washers I found at a place called King Bolt in Covina, California. I don't know if they do shipping or have an online store, but they're one of those places, hardware related. If they don't have it, probably doesn't exist. Really good place. So you can stack the washers up, you know, use calipers, whatever, to measure them. The stock spring seat will sit on top of the washers so that the spring is still in place and is held in properly. When you take everything apart to install the spacers, you'll disconnect the sway bar, which usually goes here. I took mine off, I just like how the ride is without it. Disconnect the sway bars, disconnect the shocks right here from the radius arm. WD-40 is your best friend. I actually found stuff called oil of wintergreen, and I found it at Henry's. This stuff is amazing. Breaks stuff loose really easy. So you disconnect the sway bar, disconnect the shocks, and you'll be able to drop the spindle down, or the whole axle beam actually. And this nut right here is what holds the spring down on the bottom. On the top, it's just kind of flanged in place. If you haven't had your springs out in a while, they'll probably be kind of stuck. Just jump on the hub or bang on spring, it'll come out, or pry on a little bit. This, I believe, is a 1 1/8 inch nut, if I recall correctly, and it's going to be on there pretty good, and it's a pain in the ass to get to. So you'll get that off, drop the I-beam down, this will come out real easy. Slide the, well, first you'll put the stud extender on, slide the washers over it, and bolt everything back up, and that install is really easy. And really it's easier to do all this at the same time. These are the shocks from a 93 F-150, I think it was a 4-wheel drive XLT. Part numbers are on my thread, and the adjustable camber and caster bushings to realign the truck after this is done, because it will be very off. These go in really easy too. All it is a pinch bolt right here that is going to be on there really good. You'll crack this loose, go ahead and take it all the way out. The factory bushing has a little tab that sits into this crack so that it doesn't move around and throw your alignment out. This thing is going to be in there pretty good. Prying takes it out real easy. Once again, a lot of WD-40 will help. It'll slide out eventually. What helps a lot, and you'll probably have to do, is getting a chisel or pry bar type of thing in here, into this crack, to spread it a little bit so you can get it out. Slide these back in. They come with a chart so you can get it pretty close, eyeballing. I pretty much went with the full negative camber adjusting and more positive caster, because obviously with your axle beam lower, the radius arm is going to come down a little bit and give you more negative caster until you get it properly aligned. So I did that, and when I took the alignment shop, it was really close. And you can adjust the tie rods too if you're familiar with that. It's really pretty easy. If anybody wants, I can cover that a little more in depth. So that's pretty much the installation stuff. The camber bushings are really easy to do. Just patience, muscle, and frequent loud cursing will get them out. Also, with putting the coil springs back in after the spacers are in place, basically have two options: either pull your brakes off or run down to your local parts store and borrow a spring compressor. It's gonna be a bitch to get back in. I personally found that the spring compressor is a little less of a pain in the ass than pulling the brakes out and losing anti-squeal shims and all that good stuff. So the installation isn't that bad. I'll go over the actually assembling the stud extenders, because this is kind of an important part. The stock stud that comes out of the spindle only allows for about 3/4 of an inch of spacer, which I found not really be worth doing all this. So what I did is I went to Home Depot and found, these are actually ones I made that I found out later were the wrong size. Measure things before you do this. Saves you a lot of time and money. These are ones that I found at Home Depot. These were originally just a coupler nut and a threaded rod. And what I did is I measured the length of the factory stud down here, how much it actually sticks out from the axle beam, and I cut about 2-inch lengths of the threaded rod to put into the coupler. The coupler is about 2 inches tall, maybe a little bit more. I know what you're thinking: if I only have 2 inches of washers, how am I going to fit that over more than 2 inches of coupler? Well, the spring seat on the bottom here has kind of a dome over it, which will actually sit just above the coupler. So the spring will actually seat about where the bottom of my index finger is, where the top of the washers will be. But there will be a bubble over here that will cover this, and you'll clear everything. So basically, you'll measure the length of the stud coming out of the axle beam, put the threaded rod in until you get to that height, so you can snug this coupler down onto the axle beam, and then you'll have this sticking out. Slide the washers over it, and measure these things before you do it. I used red Loctite in here to make sure that this stud won't come out of the coupler. It's been holding fine so far. I'll probably have this stuff apart later on and see how everything stayed tight. And yeah, Loctite these in there, let everything dry. And just because these are raw cuts on the rod, I decided to paint everything up so it wouldn't rust too quick. They're holding up fine good for now, and just paint everything up, put it all together. That's about it. And limper down to the alignment shop, get these tuned in right, and make sure these little pinch bolts are tight. Mine started coming loose and this started sliding out. Not fun times. So I think that's about it. And if anybody has a question, let me know and I'll answer it if I can. And a couple other things I forgot to mention really quick as far as dimensions. The washers are 1 3/8 inch inner diameter and 3-inch outer diameter. And the stud extenders, the right size for the stud will be 3/4 inch diameter by 11 thread count,